All right, the crazy math nerd is back for part two of being given a derivative and finding out where it comes from. So in the examples we did in part one, all of those were exact patterns. Like I saw the derivative and I went, I know exactly where you come from. But I'm looking at this problem and I'm not going, I know exactly where you come from. So let's take a real detailed look at how you find derivatives of functions that have a power to the x. And think about if we can figure out the pattern that we established in the beginning, maybe we can do some things to back that pattern up. So I'm just going to make up something. Let's just say that y, let me get a pen here, that'd be good. Let's say that y is equal to, let's say 9x to the fifth plus 7. So let's really take a hard look at how we find the derivative of this. So when I do the derivative, I end up with, I leave the 9 alone. And when you do this rule around an x to a function, you multiply the power and then you subtract 1 from the power. That's like the power rule, right? And then the derivative of 7, of course, is 0. So I'm not going to write that. Silly me. All right, so let's really think about that. Let's write down what we did. So I multiplied the power. That was the first step. And then I subtracted 1 from the power. Now that was the derivative. So that's going, to me, that's a derivative is kind of like going down, right, from y to y prime. So how am I going to go back up? How am I going to reverse that? Well, I'm going to do the exact opposite operation in the exact opposite order. And that would be backing up, right? So instead of subtracting 1, I'm going to add 1 to the power. And instead of multiplying the power, I'm going to divide by my new power. Okay? So let's just say, I'm going to multiply all this together, and let's just say that I was given dy dx equals 45x to the fourth. Let's say that. And let's say I try to do this and see if it works. So if I'm trying to find out what y is equal to, I'm going to add 1 to 4. And if I add 1 to 4, that is 5. And then I'm going to divide by that new power of 5. So I added a power and then divided by the new power. And then remember, we always have to add that mysterious number that could be there. And if you make that nice, you end up with 9x to the fifth plus c. And isn't that very close to what we had in our beginning problem? Yeah. So the way, if we have what we call a power function that we're trying to find out where it came from, then we can do the reversed operation in the reverse order and we can find that function pretty easily. Even if, like, this was in disguise to me, I really didn't know what was happening there. But once I did my y'all, you know I use words that I make up. I call this the anti-power rule because it's against the power rule. It's the opposite of it. So, that's a kiddyism. But I went against my power rule. So now that I understand how to reverse my pattern, add and divide, I'm going to go back up to this problem that I had no idea what to do just a minute ago. So let me go grab my pen and let's see if we can figure this out. So the 7's going to stay there because remember, just like in derivatives, if you have a constant, you can just leave it alone, do your rule around your x, and then it will just stay there. So here we go. Let's find this y value, shall we? All right, here we go. So the 7's going to stay there, and we're going to add a power, which is x to the fourth, divided by 4, and then we're going to leave the 6 alone. We're going to add a power to 1, which is 2, and divide by 2. And when you clean it up, you really end up with 7/4 x to the 4th plus 3x squared. And don't forget that little thing that could be there that we're calling c. Okay, so that's not too terribly bad. We just have to reverse the power rule that we learned before. So in a recap, let's look at that fun. I love my new rainbow colors. Isn't that fun? So if you're given the derivative of x to a power and you want to find the y, then you add 1 to the power and divide by that new power. Okay? All right, that's it for today. And the next little video is all about what happens if the chain rule comes to town. All right, thanks. Bye-bye, y'all.